Thanks again for joining, and I'll quickly explain what APTN is. APTN is basically a digital platform that connects consultants, aircraft technical consultants with clients in one place. So what we managed to do is we have created a global directory of consultants, and then we developed an algorithm that is matchmaking consultants and clients on the platform. So using vetting and 5-star reviews, we really, increase the credibility of the consultants on the platform. So far, we have vetted around 200 consultants, and overall, we have around 800 members. Also what platform is offering is automated contracting and billing. So contracting module is already there. It allows you to use e-signatures when signing a contract between you and the client. And also the automated billing is in the making. It will allow you to generate invoices on the platform and do other stuff. So currently we have a couple of project management tools. One of them is the chat function, and the other one is just simple file sharing. We're also thinking of having integrations with Amos and other popular aircraft management software. So here's how the coverage map looks. So you can see that we have a lot of consultants, and they're basically everywhere, mostly in Europe, Asia, South and North Americas, and some of Africa and Middle East. So again, if you're not yet a participant, if you're not yet on APTN platform, we encourage you to do so. And if you would like to have a promo code to test the platform, we'll be happy to share it. I mean, just maybe after the meeting, we will be sharing the promo codes with everyone, with every participant here. So that's it about APTN.
So hello, everybody. I'm Conal Shipman. Yes, we have been working on this project within the University of Limerick, but it's now being taken outside the University of Limerick, and we're in the process of setting up a new limited company outside the university. But I'll take you through a very quick presentation just on what we're doing and why we're doing it. So I'm just going to see if I can get rid of this somehow. Yeah, that's better. So this project stemmed out of the Irish government's Finance for Ireland strategy plan back in 2020. And part of that strategy plan was a request to Aircraft Leasing Ireland to do research and see whether a blockchain solution could be used for technical records for aircraft. And the reason they wanted to do this was because they wanted to store maintenance data about what's happening to their aircraft and engines, and to protect the value of their assets, but also to be able to streamline the aircraft transition process, as in the audits and the data and the dirty fingerprint transfers. So we started to look at this, and really what Aircraft Leasing Ireland were requesting was that you would have a series of airlines, all with leased aircraft, and we would collect all of their data about what they do to the aircraft and all their dirty fingerprints to go with it, centrally store it, and be able to give the lessors some form of status update on what status their fleet is in. Whether it's A320s that are out with multiple airlines or engines that are out with multiple airlines, you'd be able to get some form of status reports for the core of what's being done to those aircraft and make sure that they had all the dirty fingerprints. But what we discovered very quickly, and what I knew from time working on maintenance systems such as Amos and Wizz Air and a few others, is that they all have their own maintenance language. And just to give you an idea, it's like, even if you ask what does an airline call an overhaul in their maintenance system and on their documents produced by this maintenance system, I've seen O's, OVH's, OH's, overH, and overhaul. So which one is correct? If you have two systems trying to communicate with each other, or you're collecting documents and you're trying to figure out when something was last overhauled, you need to know what the operator calls it. And it gets even more interesting when you start seeing the way airlines put in service bulletins, airworthiness directives, and all these types of documents that they have to do to their aircraft and engines, you will see even just a service bulletin A320 7200982 revision 2 being put into systems in various different ways. And some of this isn't the airline's fault. Some of it is simply down to the fact that the maintenance system they use can have one field to enter in the name of a document, or they can have two fields, as in the name and the revision number. So you get a mix match of what airlines call the basics. And as a result, it becomes difficult to match airline data together and also to read data from multiple airlines. The second problem is that part numbers change. So if an airline does a vendor service bulletin on a part number that's a -1 and serial number 0354, we can take the maintenance data and the dirty fingerprint and we can store it somewhere. But what happens then is that if the component, for example, goes out to a shop and gets modified and its part number changes because another service bulletin was done to it and it turns into a -2 part number, and you feed that data into the centralized storage and you ask the centralized storage, what is the mod status of this part number and serial number, it'll only return one answer, because we always seem to store everything by part number and serial number. We forget the part numbers and even serial numbers can change over time. So they're the two core problems. So what we try to do is, when you look at what the request really is, it's that you have different airlines speaking different languages, all trying to send data, which is in different languages, into a centralized repository. And then you're trying to get fleet status out, but they're all speaking different languages. So that's simply not possible. And if anybody's tried to use Spec 2500 or any other standard feed to go from airline to airline, you'll know what I talk about, because the data can be spat out by one airline quite easily out of their maintenance system, but I've yet to see an airline being able to automatically take that data and hoover it up into their system. There's just too many differences. So we sat down and we said, what are the goals of what we're trying to do? And we have two core goals. The first is to create a common language. So I'll explain to you what this is, which identifies aircraft assemblies, components, requirements, tasks, documents, and everything else that goes with maintenance of an aircraft and engines or assets. And then we want to create a solution that if we get data from an airline, we can turn it into the common maintenance language, and then we can identify any dirty fingerprints that are sent to us, and we can tag those documents with the common language that makes them universally identifiable. So to give you an idea of what we're talking about when I mention the common language, it's essentially a UUID that is assigned to everything. So it's a centralized hub. It's a UUID language hub for maintenance that you give ADs, service bulletins, components, aircraft. So an aircraft could be given a UUID, an engine, component, ADs and SBs. And this becomes the common maintenance language. And just to give you an example of this, we did a very small proof of concept within the university where we went to Aer Lingus, which we have a great relationship with, and we said, we have these processes, we're developing them. And they said, that's fine. Here's a 10,000 plus page of scanned records for a C check, an end of lease C check on an A320. And we'll give you the data out of our AMOS system to go with that. We threw it into our processes and it spits out, it gives basically the airline back the same PDFs, but they're tagged in the background. So the properties of the PDF have tags on them saying exactly what happens. And I can actually show this quickly to you. If I can find what I'm trying to open here. Here it is here. Let me just get rid of this. So this is the C check that we were given. The folders came in from the MRO. There's 11,000 plus PDFs. If I open any folder, let's say the EO folder. They're all just scans of PDFs. And what we did was we put them through our processes and we tagged them. And they look exactly the same as what we got, but they're all tagged UUIDs. And what we have is a list of UUIDs for service bulletins, ADs, checks, task cards, and so on. And you can go in and you can search for anything like, if we go in for a service bulletin, for example, just show you how easy this is. If you go in and say, these service bulletins were done on the aircraft, I can pick any of these service bulletins. So let's just pick this one, for example, which is A320-27-1227 revision 4. It's flight controls. And I can select that and I can literally just go into my folder and I can paste it in. And it'll bring me back the dirty fingerprint that shows that that service bulletin was done on the aircraft. So the PDF hasn't changed. In the background of the PDF, if I go to the document properties, you can see we've tagged in a UUID type S. It's like an XML type text saying what was done to the dirty fingerprint. And while you can do that on a folder on your desktop, anybody can do it. If I gave that folder to anybody and I gave you the list of UUIDs, you'll find anything you want. You can also just simply use an Excel sheet. It's a tool. And I point it to the directory and I can literally go and say, can you tell me what happened? So it's going to go into the 10, 11,000 pages and say, what happened to my aircraft on this check? And it takes about 2 seconds, or it should do. It's taking a bit longer. I don't know what's wrong with my PC. It's saying it's not responding, typical. But it'll list everything that happened to the aircraft. I don't know what. Sorry about that. It's just not responding for some strange reason, which is very strange. Oh, there it is. It's back. It took 26 seconds. It normally takes 2, so my PC is doing something in the background. And this is a list of everything that happened to my aircraft on that check. So I can go in and I can say, what was done to my check? I can go in and I can say what service bulletins were done, what AOTs were done, what AADs were done. I can even go in and say what was installed on my aircraft. And you can see here that this part number and serial number, it's a portable fire extinguisher bottle. We don't know the CSN and TSN. It's not in their maintenance system. We know its manufacture date was installed on this work order number here. And I can show the document pages. There's the link. And you'll see that that portable fire bottle was actually installed on the aircraft. They replaced it with this part number and serial number. So that just gives you an idea of what you can do. The dirty fingerprints really tell you what they are. So if I just quickly go back to my presentation again. Okay, so we have these processes in place. And so what we're actually working on at the moment is the full solution, which is that any airline with any language, we have our processes and we have our common language hub, and we can take data and dirty fingerprints from multiple airlines and we can store them centrally using UUID tags. And then you can go across all the different airlines and all the different aircraft and engines of different airlines, and you can use a UUID to ask them whether something was done or not, and it'll find the dirty fingerprints for you. So our next steps are, as I mentioned before, we're incorporating a new limited company. It's coming out of the university, and we're doing that at the moment. We're in the process of setting that up. We're completing a full back-to-birth dirty fingerprint UUID tagging for a 20-year-old aircraft. It's an A320 as a proof of concept for a lessor. They want to see what they can do if it's all fully tagged. I can tell you now there's 185,000 PDF pages at the moment, and we're going to get all the data for it and we're going to tag them all and we're going to create a nice status report um, um, and processes that when anything's done to this aircraft, the data will get sent in on a daily or weekly or monthly basis, and we'll keep the records up to date. And we're currently in early discussions with several parties who are interested in our project from a development and investment perspective. So that's just giving you an update on where we are. And as we're setting up a new company and we're taking it outside of the university, unfortunately, we'll have to, if anybody wants to contact me, you can use my phone, or I've got my own personal Gmail account. And as soon as the new company is set up and we get the company email set up, then I'll be able to share that with you. So it's shipmanconal@gmail.com, or you can get me on the Irish mobile, which is 87283828. So I hope that helped. And if there's any questions, I'm happy to try and answer them.
Yeah, thanks, Conal. So yeah, I encourage everyone to ask their questions in the chat. So we have first question: what happens if the DFP handwriting is not very legible? Will it affect the tagging?
So it does affect the tagging, but there's new processes that I've developed, which it's not full AI, but it uses AI algorithms. And what we have found is that even if the dirty fingerprints are not very good, we'll still be able to pick up an awful lot of them. Now, if they're completely smudged and it can't read anything from them, obviously you're in trouble. But a lot of it comes down to the OCR. The cleaner the OCR, the better the accuracy. With that C check that I did, like the quality was not good. Like if you look at like that document's okay, but some of them aren't great. And it's still, we found that it got 99.1% of them. And even a small fraction of that was because the data that was in the AMOS system didn't match what the dirty fingerprint said. So we had a Form 1 number that was typed incorrectly into AMOS, but we still found it using part numbers and serial numbers and other words that are on the page. So yeah, if they're properly scanned, and obviously if they're digitally signed documents, there's no issue with that.
Okay, great. And so how far are you from developing an MVP and like say having say 2 or 3 companies to test it?
Well, we're currently, so where we've done is we've done the small proof of concept on a C check, and now we've expanded that out and we've expanded out all the functionality to be able to take any data from any airline, and we have the processes to do that. The processes at the moment are kind of being developed to work. And then once we have proven this to a lessor, we're going to create a very simple front screen showing them that once the data finger or the DFPs are tagged, we obviously need to put this into a production environment, which will be some form of development, but the processes work. And it's just a case of we're looking to partner up with we have 1 or 2 development companies actually interested in this. But the core goal at the moment is to show that we can do a whole aircraft and and then show the benefits of that. So what we're really looking at doing is for an aircraft, when you have the dirty fingerprints, you should be able to press a button and it'll actually create the whole history back to birth as like a tree structure going all the way down, where you have task cards linked to findings, you have installations linked to Form 1s and serviceable labels and so on. The whole thing is built for you. And then if there's anything it couldn't find, anything that's missing, it will actually tell you it's missing. And then there's the front end where the lessor is happy to say, we have core bits of information that we'd like to know, like 12-year structural tasks, 6-year structural tasks, and certain AD service bulletins that they want to know are done. And it'll show them straight away that they can ask the data any questions. So we're kind of still in the proof of concept phase, but it's really a development phase as well. But we're going to need to turn it into a production kind of online with fully developed APIs and so on.
Okay, so what also is the main value that, for instance, aircraft lessors should see in this? Is this like time savings or money
Yes.
savings, something like that? Also,
It's
like as well, what is the cost of the mistake? I will rephrase one of the questions there in the chat. You know, what's the cost of the mistake if something is incorrectly recorded, for instance, in the dirty
oh,
prints, and then you like just
it's not really going to make much difference if it's incorrectly tagged because the dirty fingerprint is still the dirty fingerprint. So what's happening at the moment is the lessor that we're talking to, they have one or two airlines that they would classify as low tier airlines. They have aircraft out with these airlines and they've contracted the airline to send them scans of their dirty fingerprint every or periodically. It's actually in their contract. In case anything happens, at least they have the scanned records. The other problem they have is that when they go to review documents, they literally have to read them all, and they are paying consultants to come in to basically read the documents to see whether they are what they are. What we're doing is trying to say, well, we can automate that to a very high level of accuracy. So if you want to know when your 12-year structural and the basics were done, you should be able to find them relatively quickly. When you look through them and do a quick audit of them, if they, if we have for some reason tagged an incorrect document, they still have all the records there that are fully OCR'd and they can do a search to see whether the correct document exists because they'll have a rough idea when it was done. Um, they the lessor that we're talking to spends millions every year on technical um how would I put it, technical audits and checking bits and pieces. They also have a part sales part of their company. So when they get an aircraft back, sometimes they hand the aircraft over to their part sales section. And they then are looking at it from a different perspective. It's not just what's the current status of the aircraft, it's what are all the bits and pieces and Form 1s and everything that are in there. So we'll be able to identify all the Form 1s, even if they're for rotables or not. We'll be able to identify pretty much everything that's in there.
all right, there's another question in the chat. Do you expect any mapping risk having information from different sources like MROs, airlines, OEM production, and
Yes. So the mapping, there is a quite a good fuzzy matching mapping where it's kind of it learns as well from the airlines. So we do, and that's a really good question. So we've already said to this lessor that if they really want to do this, the airline has to be willing to give you their base data, which is their background data of this is the list of service bulletins, this is the list of airworthiness directives. So we can apply UUIDs to that. Now, there really realistically is only about 10 different ways airlines call these things in their systems. There might be some strange ones, but it'll learn over time and it'll get more accurate. And if there's no immediate match, it will pop up and say, does this mean this or this? And we'll go yes or no. So there is an initial onboarding, but after that, it's up and running.
I see. Yeah. So probably the last question from me is going to be, since you're doing the OCR of the documents anyway, will your product just offer a search by, the documents
Oh, yes.
themselves?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. You can, that's immediate. This whole document, I can highlight the text
Yeah.
on it, as you can see there. So it's fully OCR'd, and any search will, even in your computer, on your laptop or your PC, if you set your indexer to the set of documents, you'll be able to read the content. You can search for text inside the document.
But yeah, probably indexing the documents is going to be not an easy task yet.
Well,
85.
no, like this is using the background Windows indexing service. So you basically put a folder onto it and it then reads extra information. Now, if you're talking about millions of documents, your PC won't be able to do that. That's why it needs to be sat somewhere with a good bit of power once you're collecting data from lots and lots and lots of airlines.
All right. Conal, thank you so much for answering all the questions and for the presentation. We can see that the product is in very early stages, but very ambitious at the same time.
It is ambitious, but it
Yeah,
works. It does work, which is amazing to all of us. We put a lot into this. But again, if anybody's interested in talking to us or finding out more, by all means, give me a shout on the phone or send me an email and I'll get back.
yeah. Also, Conal, if there is a last question in the chat, so
Mhm.
like just maybe answer to Rodrigo about the UUIDs usage.
Yes,
That'd be great. And also, I need to reclaim the host from you so I can give a word to Barry. All right.
yes, yep.
Okay, I'm the host now. Cool. So, Barry, so maybe you could try and start sharing the screen.
Sure. Thanks, Conal. Absolutely lovely presentation. I know we're quite
Thanks,
close to each
Barry.
other
Yes, we
geographically, but
are.
I've never actually seen your system or heard about it too much. So it was very interesting to learn about it today.
Yes,
Uh,
we need to catch up because I did meet you in Aer Lingus years ago.
that's right. Yep.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I've a bit of a presentation put together, and I'll do a small little bit of a show and tell as well, kind of like what Conal did. And I suppose what I'll do is I'll give an overview of who we are as a company and where we came from, and the general idea of where we're going, I suppose. So I started working with aircraft first of all from the engineering perspective, manufacturing GSE equipment, engine cradles, that kind of thing, and was also involved in the setup and running of technical services company started in 2006 with my brother Brian, who's also our co-founder of the Cloudcards company. So we come from a technical background. And what we've done, I suppose, is we have built several companies now that are involved in aviation. One of them being the Cloudcards company. Hello? Okay. So what we have, I suppose, and the reason why I've been invited into this call, I suppose, we built a document management system, and we've been working with aircraft documentation for over 20 years at this stage, in around working with the Irish leasing companies and airlines, basically all over the world. And so what we did was we built an internal tool, first of all, a platform that we could manage and run our business with to transition aircraft. And, part of that is gathering up the documentation and then, digitizing that and bringing it into a place where it is in a structure. And also you can find the information contained within that. So that was a huge challenge back before cloud computing really took off. Typically we used to get, between 50 and 60 cardboard boxes of paper documentation that were stored in a warehouse somewhere. And, we had to scan all of that stuff and digitize it and try and OCR it if possible. And, when you've got a shop visit report with images in it and all that kind of thing, you run into a dead end. So we've been fighting this battle with documentation for 2 decades almost at this stage. So what we did was we built the Cloudcards company, which manages just under 2,000 aircraft at the minute, and engines between our asset management and our document management loan products. So what we did, we took our original product, which was a transition tool for physically going out inspecting the aircraft, and also a storage area where you could project manage the build of a delivery book or delivery Bible, which was the transition pack essentially to move an aircraft off lease and onto the next lease on behalf of the leasing company, and also manage all of the engineers involved and the MROs and everybody else. So that's the kind of background on us. Our products, we have an asset management system, the records management, which is DMS, our aircraft transition system, which is Cards, which has an online version and also mobile apps on iOS and Android. And then we have a technical budget manager and then a loan manager as well. So we kind of a broad range of things. Our idea is a one aviation platform. And that basically means a leasing company come in and every single participant in that company, be it legal, risk, finance, technical sales, all have a place to go and you do their day-to-day work on that. with the document management system, we've worked for a long time with Tesseract and several other language models to basically develop an OCR system. So what we've got with our document management system is literally a place where you could, as a leasing company or airline, you can take a memory keys worth of information or a shop pack or an entire suite of documents and load it into this system. It automatically gets OCR'd. It also gets AI treatment, and we index absolutely everything that comes in, including handwriting. And then what we do is we make that searchable based on who you are and what you're allowed to see within the platform. And it has all of the search capabilities and things like that. So you could literally go in and look for, the name of a person or a part number or, a landing gear and a pintle pin or something like that, whatever serial number it had. And it'll look across perhaps 20 gigabytes worth of information you have stored on your particular platform and come back with, intelligent searches basically on the results on that, where it'll jump into the page down onto where it has found that search string. So that has taken a long time to get us to where we are now. But we have, a huge database. We developed our own language learning model where we put over 200 gigabytes worth of aircraft documentation into it. We have the system trained to know what a Form 1 looks like. We have it trained to know what an airline's logo looks like, handwriting, etc., etc. So it's become quite a powerful tool, and it's expanding. Just recently, we've taken on 5 of the customers that have come from the Stream data collapse, essentially. So, we're moving along with taking in more and more aircraft in this and building up this huge database in the background. Why did we go digital? I was looking at this back in 2009 when we had an FTP site of our own hosted out of a server, and it just it needed to go cloud. We went to Salesforce first of all, and we built a platform on top of the Salesforce platform because Azure, and all these nice new systems that are out there, they didn't exist at the time, or they were in development. So the only one that we could see that would work was working with Salesforce in building on top of their platform and using them as infrastructure, essentially. So we built our first cards project management tool on top of that. We also leveraged box.com, which was an early stage cloud storage company, and we're still very, very active working with those guys, where our senior developers are working with their senior developers on building out APIs and things like that. So we have a huge volume of storage of aircraft documentation with those guys, and everything passes through into that. The biggest problem in the industry, and it is one that has always come to me, every single leasing company that we went to over the years, was, they'll transition aircraft and they'll get handed a DVD, a hard drive, or a link to something. And, they need to find a particular non-incident statement 6 months later because that aircraft has been parted out and the engine is, needs this NIS cert, otherwise it's not happening, and they can't find it. It just simply can't be found. So that challenge was a huge one. And what we've done is with the AI and indexing of all this information, it basically makes it very, very simple to go in, type in somebody's name. It might have been hand signed on a document, and it'll basically find that and return it back. And you could then compile. It might have found maybe 20 documents. You can actually compile them together into a folder, and you could build a back-to-back trace in literally seconds, which is something that needed to happen over the years quite a bit. Another feature that we found was quite annoying, huge time sink for tech services company and tech services engineers, was you get a shop visit report, and you'd have a scan of a LLP disk sheet, with all of the parts on it, and you had to hand transcribe all of these into a system or onto another Excel sheet or something like that. So we built tools that will extract tables on a PDF document and turn them into a CSV with that table structure on it. So, tools like that have become, very useful. And I suppose our company is driven by innovation. We always listen to what our customers want, and we also know the industry quite a bit ourselves. And we're working very much so in developing more and more of these, nice to have tools, where perhaps you have a tech spec for an aircraft and you can just scan it up into the system and it'll automatically build an asset on the system for you and get it going as a draft version. So, information like that is out there. It just needs to be found and then, intelligently put together. So, with the Stream system, they had a barcoding system. We looked at how structure works with aircraft documentation. And Brian, my brother, the co-founder, was one of the steering group on the original IATA Spec 2500 white paper creation. So, we got into that. back in the day, and tried to bring it along where structure was coming in. And it is down to, a defined folder structure that comes in on the platform. And, what we've tried to do with every single customer of ours is try and guide them to build a Spec 2500 type folder structure where they can load their information in, and then the transfer of that between one and the other becomes easier. Obviously, that's a lovely thing to think about, but it's not a real world case. So you do need to tag documents, and we've done that by literally creating with the indexing we've done a root branch tree type approach where we know a PDF has come from a particular shop visit. We know who loaded it up. We know the information contained into it. And within using AI, then we can actually build up a metadata story around that particular document and the relationships it has with the aircraft it was fitted to, or several landing gears that this particular pin might have traveled around on, and go all the ways back and find its non-incident statements and things like that. So that's what we've done. We've worked and leveraged every bit of technology that we could work with in the cloud, and also built our own code. So our own code base, the entire platform we built sits on top of Microsoft Azure. And we worked actually with a nice software development company that started off in the grounds of University of Limerick. I contracted them to actually build the first iteration of our asset management system, and from then we've moved along with Microsoft Azure and built a huge cloud-based system, which is global at this stage and working very successfully for quite a number of the leasing companies now, managing aircraft around the world. I suppose our key technologies is we use the best of what we can find. AI is an interesting place. We've leveraged quite a number of AI tools from different vendors, from Google, and half a dozen more. And we've looked at building our own. We have a language model that we built ourselves to make sure that we're definitely refining into aircraft documentation. And I suppose the idea was efficient transfer as well of documentation. So, we've worked with aircraft. Some of them have traveled through our systems 5-6 times through different transitions, and they've built up all these historical, events, and they're stored on the platform. So I suppose what we try to do is take this out of the tech records as well and bring it into the aircraft leasing companies, lease contract management as well. So we basically built a full document management system that covers all of the documents that come along with the aircraft, from delivery from the manufacturers through to the purchase registration information, insurance, everything else, and all of that goes into the one store essentially on that asset. So you can type in your MSN, and if you have the access on it, you can go all the ways down from an LLP to the actual purchase invoice, the aircraft, if you want to. We've done an awful lot with it. We've taken on feedback as well from some of our customers. So very recently we've enhanced the platform to make it work in different areas. So there are geographical challenges with a lot of these things, particularly file viewers in some areas in the globe, particularly in China. They just won't work. You simply can't get the system to run at all. It's blocked by a firewall. So we have to go and either rebuild code or find a very innovative solution to get around that. And that's a particular challenge for aircraft leasing and aviation, where the aircraft is domiciled out of Ireland, but it's actually been delivered over in China or somewhere like that, and the crew who are actually building up the records team could be down in Singapore. So it has to work for everyone, and we've done a huge amount of work on that to make sure that it is a global platform, and that has been a considerable challenge. I suppose just rather than rattling on too much, I could do a kind of a quick show and tell of what the capabilities of the system. These are some of our sample clients who use it. So I suppose they host between them hundreds of airlines and lots of different aircraft, and all their fleets are on our systems, and all the documentation, etc. Just to give you an overview, if that's all right, of the platform. So what we've done is we've tried to build up for every customer that has the system. What we've got is a templating tool. So you can come in here at the folder level if you're a super admin on the platform, and basically for each category of documents, you can build up a template based on the type of aircraft it is, So you have spec 2500 type format here. So if you want to build an asset on the system, you want to say, I want to pick this category of asset documents and this particular template here. It could be, Boeing aircraft, wide body aircraft. It could be for a particular leasing company even. They may have their own structure. And that basically can be used, and it'll build up this Windows directory type folder structure automatically with nothing in it on the platform. And that then, when you go to look at the document management system and you have, would say you've access to maybe 100 aircraft or 180 aircraft or something like that on the platform, it basically lands you on this page here, which is like a Google search engine. And you have a very simple Windows directory type structure here where you have all the aircraft you have access to. You can see, you can drill down into them. You can look at, depending on your permission. So we have a huge permission set matrix in the background that drives this. So if you are a person that is only allowed to see, A002 burn certs, even within your own organization, you won't see anything else belonging to that aircraft, anything below it or above it. But you can go in, there's a very simple uploading tool. So just select your folder, click on here, and it asks you then what you want to do. So an individual file size maximum of 2 GB, but it'll take unlimited storage on this. You can give a description to a document, and it could be folders as well. So you can drag and drop out of a network share or something like that, maybe 10 GB worth of files into this. Or if you wanted to do an individual file, you can just select that, drop the file in here, give it a description if you want to classify it, so you can actually put some metadata around it yourself, very important files. And there's a place in the system where you can create these tags as well. So it could be, come from AMOS system, particular check 123. You can block people from downloading it out of the system or for sharing it. You can put a status on it, say if it was original received and filed. You can put expiry dates on it. And the system will trigger and tell you if it's going to expire. It could be an insurance cert for the aircraft or something like that. And that basically gets uploaded. When it gets uploaded, then it automatically gets OCR'd. They run through the basic Tesseract system, which we've trained ourselves, based on that huge, 200 GB worth of information. And then it'll run through on the AI system as well. So if it is a situation where you have, a funky looking document that, the OCR system can't find something on it, or it finds perhaps handwriting or something like that, you can basically go in and what it'll do is it'll turn it in and do a better search on the AI system. So we just have a sample document here. It's a typical kind of a wiring diagram where you have, very fine text from the actual drawing itself. You have someone scrawled over it with, pink highlighter. It's got black pen, blue pen, 3 different types of writing. It's a skewed document, and we go in and we OCR that and put the AI treatment on it, and we're able to find, anything in that then down to very fine text. And every single piece of text that it has found out of that document, it knows where it came from. So it knows that it's an asset document. It knows it's from this MSN 2021. It's a tech doc. It knows the spare part. It's from sample A. It's related to a Garuda check. It's a PDF document. And, it has all of this information, which is indexed against that. And it also knows all the hierarchy above it as well. So it knows it's related to a particular airline, particular MRO, the portfolio that it's sat in within the leasing company, where it has come from historically. So if you can imagine you have, I would say, an aircraft here, and I'll just set a lock on it. Like this. And if we go into the document management and we want to look at just a particular, transition event or something like that. So one of the key features we have on this as well is you can actually import in the aircraft or transition the aircraft into, or the asset into the system with a project-based approach where every snapshot or delivery, redelivery event, or it could be an annual inspection program as well, has its own historical stack of documents here. And you can do the full project management and review of each page, sheet, or folder if you want to, down at this level. Or you can create your open item list as well and snag the particular file or folder if you want to. So that archive sits there and also it tracks all of the issues as well with it in a listing. So that's all tied in with the one platform. So perhaps if you wanted to create a new delivery or redelivery event, you can go into your asset store here, find your spec 2500 technical documents here. You can copy that and then create a new delivery event and then paste in what you have historically as your delivery book and trim it out then and ask for the new status reports and things like that. So very quickly you can create a snapshot on the system, and it'll build up as a platform, and then you can share out as well, obviously. So you can go in here if you wanted to share this particular folder, you can share it out. Anyone with the link, someone who's a user of Cloudcards, put a password on it, link expiry, email it out directly, and that'll give someone who isn't perhaps logged into the system access to do a preview of a particular file or folder or whatever. And it's all tracked on the audit log as well. So everything on the platform is mapped out and fully searchable. So I suppose that's what we try to do with our platform, was take that immense amount of documentation that sits within a leasing company would say they may have 400 or 500 aircraft, and turn that into a very, very simple search engine up here, where if you want to go in and look at, we'll say something, I don't know, let's say roles. Um, we have a search engine here, but you can also build a query as well on it. So you can see, we found a whole load of paperwork here to do with a particular document, and it'll jump directly into that document and find whereabouts on that document the search term. So it'll return back hundreds of results, but you can then refine that. So if you say you want to look in a particular portfolio, it could be your helicopter portfolio or something like that, or a particular asset or a file type that you're looking for, and we handle about 50 different file types on the system, or categories as well. So we'll say if you went and you created a maintenance reserve claim document, and you were looking for them. So we're looking on one particular asset for maintenance reserve claim documents, and it'll do a search, and it may or may not turn back something with this now, but we can have a look. This is just a sample demo. And it basically looks through, in this case, I think there's about 250 terabytes of information, and it has basically gone through and looked at all of that, and it'll tell you who loaded it up and all that kind of information on it as well. Okay, so that's an overview of our system. I suppose, has anybody any questions?
Yeah, I do. Barry, first of all, thanks for the presentation. I have a couple of things to ask. First, you've mentioned the departure of steam and air data from the market. So in your view, how will this affect the whole scene, the whole e-records kind of community? And
Yeah, it's a profound thing to happen. I suppose it's a tragic thing to happen, first of all, for the staff and employees of the company, but also for the leasing companies who have to try and very quickly mop up this. They haven't been given much time to, in some cases, take potentially 800, 1,000 aircrafts worth of documentation and find a home for it very quickly, and retrain their entire organization to be able to find this information again. So it's a big one. It's definitely huge. It's putting pressure on a lot of the vendors who are out there who don't have the same functionality to be able to come up with a solution very quickly and handle that volume. It is quite a challenge when a leasing company approaches you with literally a Dropbox link or share file or something like that, and you go in and look at it, and you find there's 20 terabytes of data in there, and a lot of it is just a miscellaneous folder, and they're used to having that in a structure, and that's all they've got. So that's a challenge. There are systems out there. There are people helping. Definitely, there is a scramble on to try and get this going. I suppose timing wise for us, it's been quite good. We've been developing this system for quite a number of years, and it's up and running and working well for our customers. So we're happy to take on as much as we can get, to be honest with you. And definitely from the asset management side we've been quite happy with the progress in the last quarter with the number of customers transitioning across from CMS particularly.
Yeah. Okay, great. And the system looks very, very good, and it records a lot of stuff. So I could not notice the reports tab. What's in that tab, and like, do you, let's say, can you analyze the whole data and maybe give some insights to the lessor or other people who are using the system?
Yeah, for sure. So we have our own report building tool. They're kind of privy to the company at the minute, so I won't be showing them on the demonstration. But we do build them out ourselves, and they can come out in any format. All the ways from a simple image to an XML document or a PDF or Word whatever it is. We build them on spec for our customers. So when a leasing company takes our platform, they'll come to us and they'll say, we have these Excel sheets or PowerPoint presentations we need to do once a month to our funds or whatever. We'll go and we'll build that in the system, and anything that is, valid, that is useful on the platform that can be brought in, we can bring it in onto those reports and show them very, very nicely as well on the platform. It's fairly robust when it comes to reporting. I suppose bearing in mind that our asset management system is almost a standalone accounting system as well at this stage. So we have a ton of finance reports. And we also create a data warehouse for our customers if they want to tap into that and run their own Power BI as well. We find quite a number of the larger leasing companies have capability in-house to basically create Power BI reports once they have access to the data. So we do that as well. And we've APIs into several different systems. Conal mentioned the transfer data from one customer to the next or one platform to the next. That's been vital for us for a number of years. And most recently, like your topic there about the naming convention for shop visit reports or check history and things like that. It could be written down a lease with a particular naming convention, but the actual MRO calls it something else. And we have, a direct integration with the likes of Airlytics, where we take a naming convention for perhaps a C check, and it might have 7 different naming conventions, and we have an identifier code in the background, quite like your UID type system, where we build that in, and our system is able to communicate with the Airlytics platform, which does all the fly forward pricing seamlessly, essentially. So our customer can just literally hit a button and send out a push into Airlytics, and they're able to then map their fly forward for the next month of the aircraft. So all of that stuff is very, very important. We've done a little bit, I suppose, recently to open up the platform a small bit as well to our customers, where they can actually go in and create their own fields on it and things like that, and create code links and things to particular shop histories and stuff like that.
I see. Thanks. And there is a question from Rodrigo. How long does it take to process a 15-year-old aircraft, including the OCR process?
Depends on how many files is there, to be honest. So we can run through about 40,000 documents in a week. Basically, that's kind of the run rate for the full OCR index AI system. So, 40,000 documents is quite a large amount of volume of information, considering a shop visit could be 500 pages. If it's very, very simple and clean documents that aren't badly skewed or are scanned properly and have some metadata attached to them already, it's very useful for our platform because we can pick that information up very quickly. If it's coming from Stream or something like that, where there's a barcode on it and there is a bit of a history attached to it with that artifact, we can track that as well. So quite like the UID system, we can map into them as well if we need to when the time comes, fairly easily.
Yeah, another question is about leveraging blockchain technology. It was a big thing, let's say 5 years ago. What's happening with it now? Yeah, everyone was saying that the future of electronic documents is going to be blockchain, but yeah, what's happening?
Yeah, can I just jump in there on the blockchain? Yeah, like blockchain is really trying to apply technology to technical data, really. And as I explained, the problem you have is not where you're putting data or how you're storing it. It's the format that the data's in. So yes, you could, in theory, well, in theory, you have to look at an airline as a silo. So the airline's documents and the airline's maintenance data is in a particular language, if that makes sense. And you can store that anywhere you want. And then you have another airline that has their own language, and you can store that wherever you want. And you can put them both into blockchain, but you can't really do much with it if they're speaking 2 different languages. That's the problem. And it's when you transfer, or you're trying to transfer, or you're trying to search for very specific things like a service bulletin or an airworthiness directive, or can you find me the documents where there's the Form 1 for this component back to birth, but its part numbers changed 3 times, or you're trying to find what are the documents supporting this AD being closed on the aircraft when it has 3 service bulletins that need to get done. And they're all called different names in different airlines. It's very simple and subtle changes that make 2 bits of very simple data not match. And if we have a common language, then you can load everything into whatever system, whether it's blockchain or wherever you want to store it, and you can query it across all the airlines.
Yeah, it's basic principles for tracking things. We have system IDs across our entire platform for everything, quite like your UIDs, and that method or model is once if you have an international standard with that or a way of working, it's it's fairly straightforward to find anything you want in.
Yes, there are. So even Amos uses IDs in the background. They all do. So in the background inside any of those maintenance systems, there's an ID given to every document. There's an ID given to every rotable component or asset, including the aircraft. And those IDs in the background never change, but they're the same IDs in all the versions of Amos. So ID 1234 in Aer Lingus's Amos might refer to an engine, where the ID 1234 in Iberia's Amos could refer to a fan blade. Do you know what I mean? It's to try and standardize that. So the idea that we see is that the documents, doesn't matter whether they're in folders or structures, you should be able to ask the document, what are you, in a standard language, and it should just say, I am this.
Yep, that's what we've achieved.
I guarantee it's not in a standard language.
It's
No, not a lot of blockchain then. Yeah. This leads actually to another question, and your relationship with the regulating authorities, maybe some registers. So what is their view of your system and other systems on the market probably, and how close are we to adopting it, let's say worldwide and in every register, and what can you
You
say
see,
about that?
you see, the authorities don't really mind, as long as when you're doing the maintenance, you conform to the regulations. After that, you just have to store your tech records. And there's even, you don't need to store full back to birth. If you own the aircraft, you don't need to, but the lessors typically want you to store back to birth on their aircraft. So there's nothing really what it is saying that the airlines fly aircraft. That's what they want to do. They want to fly aircraft, and they maintain them using maintenance systems which forecast when things need to get done. And they store the dirty fingerprints, and they have all the data in their maintenance system. After that, the only time they're really going to look at sort of building delivery Bibles and doing all of those types of things is when it comes to a lease return or a sale of, if they own the aircraft. They generally don't keep. I think there's only, there's something like 2% of the airlines keep a current status of dirty fingerprints against what their aircraft current status is live. They don't have to do it as long as they have the dirty fingerprints. Um, and so what we're kind of saying is, when it comes to deliver an aircraft, if when the airline does say, this is the current status, these components were all installed on these dates, these tasks were all last done here, here is our service bulletin status and AD status and so on, that you can press a button, and as long as you know the UUIDs of each of those, it'll just find the dirty fingerprints for you straight away, because you've tagged them all. And it means that you can transfer the asset from one operator to another operator. And as long as they tag the documents going forward, it's the same UUIDs across operators. So if one operator does a service bulletin and another operator does the same service bulletin, it's the same UUID. And it means that you can transfer the records, and the new operator will be able to understand them fully. It doesn't matter what folder structure they're in. The problem with the folder structures is that it's kind of the folder name tells you what the documents are. And we're saying the documents should always tell you what they are, even if they're stored in one huge folder, you should be able to press a button and say, what do I have?
Yep. Yeah, and that was the challenge, I suppose, in getting these big, huge miscellaneous folders with,
Yes,
4 gigabytes worth of stuff in them, and all you have is a file name, which means nothing. It's just
which
a computer.
means nothing.
Yeah.
Yes,
So I suppose that was the key thing, and from our view on it, I suppose, was to get, you know, all that information contained within those documents is the valuable thing, not the name of the file. And if we understand what that is in that document, then we can, extract that out, and it can become something that is searchable. And also train the system. You take
yeah,
a standard Form 1, there's a very specific size for each panel and where the signature goes, etc.
structure, yeah,
Right.
yeah,
So, that's becoming a standard too. IATA are doing a lot of work on that. And, we've trained our system in the background to recognize what a Form 1 is straight away. It might have loads of text in it, it might have nothing in it. If you ask for a Form 1, it'll find it. Or
yeah.
somebody's logo and airlines in it, whatever. So there's two ways of doing it, I suppose. But we do track the metadata in the background is the very, very key thing. And having that a unique identifier for that particular page within a document is key, and relating it to the MSN and the MSN that is that particular model. So it has to branch out.
Oh,
You
it
can have,
does. Now, I suppose when you get aircraft documents, you can have a component, for example, that was on an aircraft, a different aircraft, and then it moved on to another aircraft, and it's become part of like the history of that component now from it's been across four aircraft and had certain things done to it, and you want to bring it into
yep,
one aircraft. If you have the documents tagged with UUIDs just for the component, you can pull all of that data straight in. The other problem you have is that airlines all do things differently. So you have a huge number of like engineering orders that are only unique to the airline. They're like, here's a document instructing my engineer to do two service bulletins. And you literally get a work order saying, please do this engineering order. And you have to read the engineering order then to find out what service bulletins were done. Like
sure,
it starts getting very, very difficult. I've tried to train AI to kind of say, yeah, you can have a work order and you can have other supporting documents. And within the supporting documents, there's the text telling you what they actually did. It starts getting exceptionally messy. Um, but every airline generally has a very standard form for what they do. Like any airline that uses AMOS that uses the default work order, they're all exactly the same documents that come out. And the Form 1s, you're right, there's standard format. There's even an ATA specification that includes a UUID for the component. And the UUID for a component is supposed to be made up of the manufacturer's cage code, the manufactured part number, and the serial number of the component at manufacture. But no airline has that. Like they would have it if they bought a new part, but not if they have parts that came secondhand on an aircraft or they're pooling or anything like that. They just don't have that UUID. So it's to try and start giving things UUIDs. Like every AD should, in my view, have a UUID in the top of it. And that's in the maintenance system. And the airline can call it whatever they want, as long as you know what they're referring to.
Okay, great, Dan. So let's quickly check if anyone has any questions. I'm asking the participants now because we're a little over 5 p.m. when the webinar should have ended. But yeah, it's just the questions panel. It's always takes time. Yeah, if anyone has any questions, please ask our speakers. They're both available. And but other than that, I wanted to thank you for participating in this webinar and for the presentations. It seems that the whole scene is growing. I'm talking about you, Conal. There's still space after air data departure. And yeah, so we're hoping to see more and more projects and maybe some unification, between the projects as well. It's going to be great to be able to, let's say, transfer from one system to another. I think it's a headache for the lessors and, the aircraft owners and, other airlines as well. So maybe some sort of a translation tool from one convention to another at least. But yeah, maybe we meet again in some time, and some of you will present us with such a tool or similar. Okay, thanks a lot, and yeah, it was a great
Come back to
conversation.
me in July and I'll show you.
Okay, great. Very welcome. Yeah, and again, apologies for the technical problems. It wasn't expected. Black swan of sorts happened, and yeah. But anyways, thanks to everyone, and see you in the next webinar. The recording will be available, and as I've said at the beginning, we'll be sending out the trial promo codes for the platform if anyone's interested in joining. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you all
Thanks.
very much.
Bye.
Thanks, Bart. Thanks, Conal.
Bye.
Thank you for listening.
Bye.